Which Canadian NHL teams are in the best position to win post-trade deadline? And does the NHL have an LTIR problem? Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Off the Post. Rob Wong joined alongside by Toronto Sun sports columnist Steve Simmons. And Steve, the trade deadline has come and gone. The Winnipeg Jets being one of the busiest teams on deadline day, acquiring Tyler Toffoli from New Jersey. But when you look at the Canadian teams now, after all the trades that were made the last few weeks, Steve, does anyone stand above the rest?
Well, first of all, this is a year where a Canadian team can win the Stanley Cup. I think that you look at the Western Conference right now and you think, the Edmonton Oilers have a pretty good shot and the Vancouver Canucks have a pretty good shot. The Winnipeg Jets have a real nice roster and they might have a shot. And after years and years of being nowhere close, this is going to be an interesting playoffs in Canada, I think. And probably Sportsnet for the first time in a very long time will be excited by having Canadian teams possibly playing Canadian teams in playoff series, which it should be good for television. The team I would pick right now out of Canada is the Edmonton Oilers. And, you start with the best player in the game. And Connor McDavid is back being that right now. He's the leading scorer in the NHL since January 1st. And they have, I think the best record in the NHL since then. And I think you look at the team, what they have, you look at what they added in Adam Henrique and Sam Carrick. They really added either a third and fourth line center or a fourth line center and a second line winger. And so it really deepens that roster up front where, they've always been so reliant on McDavid and Draisaitl. And now I think they've added better players and guys who understand what playoff hockey is. And if you go back to Henrique playing with either the Windsor Spitfires or the New Jersey Devils, where he played in big minutes in big playoff games, he was a very effective player, and I believe he still is a very effective player. And so I like that Oilers team. This is the best Oilers team we've seen in the McDavid era. And he is just dying to have a playoff and have his name on the cup. And I could see it happening this year. A lot of people are going to look at Winnipeg and say, yeah, they picked up Toffoli and that roster is good and it's deep and the team is good and they've been among the best in the league record-wise and maybe the Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuck. What I don't like about the Winnipeg Jets as a playoff team is the number one center. And it's not a criticism of Mark Scheifele, who's a very good player, but he's not elite the way McDavid is elite, the way Draisaitl is elite, the way Austin Matthews is elite. And I think not having that kind of guy when you're matching up, especially in the West, when you're going to have to get through Vegas and Edmonton and Vancouver and Dallas and those teams, Colorado, you're not going to have the best center in most of those games. And I think that's where the Winnipeg Jets will fall, in my view, a little off from where the other teams are.
So you mentioned the Vegas Golden Knights, and once again, Steve, they are in the crosshairs when it comes to LTIR. I think a lot of fans, maybe even some GMs, getting a little bit annoyed with what Vegas has been able to do in recent years. Does the NHL have a problem right now with how teams are manipulating LTIR?
Have a problem or has had a problem for like the last 10 years or however long this collective bargaining agreement has been written. You can go back to Tampa Bay and Nikita Kucherov not playing an entire season just about with the Lightning and then scoring 30 points in the playoffs when they go and win the Stanley Cup. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, who have been capped right up against the cap every single year. If they don't have Matt Murray injured and John Klingberg injured and different people injured this year, they can't have the roster they have because they can't afford to pay them. So it's not just Vegas. Vegas is the smartest club. They use it the best of anyone in hockey. But if you lose a guy and he is in fact hurt and he can't play and he can come back for the playoffs, I think Colorado might be bringing Landeskog back come playoff time. If you can do that and the rules say you can, yes, is it a problem? Other GMs who can't do it say, yeah, it's a problem. But these are the rules. They have been collectively bargained. They're not going to change them. And until the next CBA comes along and somebody decides, we can't do this, and there will be objections. So I don't know if they'll ever be able to come up with a situation. And as you say, historically, what happens? They make rules, then they manipulate rules, and you find a way to get around the rules. And they're not really getting around the rules. They're just doing what's there. The rules say if you have an injured guy and he's on long-term injured, that doesn't count against the cap. You can fill in that spot. What they might want to do in the next CBA, never mind the LTIR thing, what they might want to do is say, you must be cap compliant in the playoffs as well as in the regular season. If they do that, that will change some of the problems they now have.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Steve Simmons, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week on another edition of Off the Post.